Okay, we are live, JPWHUTV, with a very, very special guest, very good mate of mine, AJ from Kiwi Hammers. Mate, say hello to the populace.
Hello, mate. How are we?
Keeping very well, mate. Yourself?
Oh, yeah, can't complain. It's the same old thing, day in, day out. I mean, lack of football's got to be getting on everyone's nerves at the moment.
That's the funny thing. It's only been a week and we're all getting withdrawal symptoms already.
Well, yeah, yep. Mind you, for you, it's a little bit easier. For me, watching the games, I'm getting up at about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right, but okay. So just before we go into it fully itself, mate, what I need to do is let everybody know that, as usual, this channel is being sponsored by 3retro.com. Please click the link in the description below. It will take you directly to the affiliate link for their West Ham retro shirts, where you can purchase their 60s all the way through to the early 2000s replica kits. There's also Umbro and Admiral track jackets, t-shirts and sweatshirts as well. So any purchases made through the link will go directly to help funding the channel. So thank you very much for any purchases that you may be making. Be interesting to see, because it's been up and running for about a month now. So it'd be interesting to see if anybody has done over the last month. So AJ, mate, come on, tell us about yourself. Tell us how you got into West Ham.
Well, I can go down one of two ways. I can give you the short answer or the long answer. Which would you like?
It's entirely up to yourself, mate. You have the floor for the moment, so go for it.
Well, my grandfather supports Newcastle United. He's a mad Geordie, and yeah, absolutely loves his Newcastle. Absolutely gutted when they went down, but I got my love of football through him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought about going through the whole, relegation promotion, and then I stopped and I thought about it, and yeah, mid-table mediocrity seemed about right. So I figured, with a club that's got a lot of support, a lot of history, real passionate fan base, that's me sold. That's everything. And of course, Winston Reid, vice captain of the club as well. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. I missed the Football United tour, though, when they were at here back in 2014. I only just missed it, so still gutted about that.
How do you mean you just missed it? Were you out by a day or something, did you? Or?
Yeah, more or less. I wasn't overly big on the football scene at that point. I was still trying to find my feet when it came to sports, because when I was at school, rugby is the sport, and if you're supporting something else that's not rugby, they kind of frowned on you a little bit. So yes.
Okay, so in terms of that, so just talking about basically your family's love of underdogs, by the sounds of it, with your granddad for Newcastle and you for West Ham. What drew you to West Ham itself, apart from obviously Winston Reid, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point? But what actually narrowed you into West Ham and think, I'm going to have a few decades of heartache every few seasons now?
Well, I was mainly looking for a club that had a really, really good fan base, played some really nice football, and genuinely had a full backing of the fans, all the support and everything. Playing at an iconic stadium like the Bowling Ground, it's kind of hard to define what made me become a West Ham fan, but I think one of the most important things that solidified my love for the club was probably, seeing the likes of these underdog games when we would go up against the likes of Manchester United and just, play some absolutely astounding football where we would have them on the ropes, and then yeah, okay, we'd concede and we'd concede again and concede again, and then we'd have a little bit of, I would say, a little bit of a temper tantrum. But then, we'd get one back, and it's those sorts of games that I absolutely adore. And one of the biggest moments for me when becoming a West Ham fan was probably that farewell Berlin game. The last home game of the season. You know what I'm talking about. I can see that smile there. Manchester United 2, West Ham United 3, Sacco. That goal was amazing. I'll give him credit for that. But no, Winston Reid, that the way the stadium erupted when that third goal went in was just amazing.
Yeah, I know what you mean, mate. I still can't believe it. Leading at 1-0, losing it 2-1, and then to come back with 3-2 with literally a couple of minutes left. It was the fairy tale ending that we all wanted to just be, and it was great that Winston Reid, of all players, now you know how much I love him. He's a big part of West Ham as far as I'm concerned, and everybody else really. But it's just to have the man who scored from the Pikeys, who won it when we were down in the Championship. I can't believe that was 8 years ago. It shows you how long and yet how quickly that's all come around over the last few years. To have Winston Reid to be the last ever goal scorer at the Boleyn, because we were all worried that we were being at 2, or we were all worried thinking, oh Christ, who else is going to score? Is it? And then literally, bam, Winston Reid. And that's, like you say, that's the reason why the place absolutely erupted, because that's it. Nobody else is scoring. For example, when Spurs moved to Wembley Stadium, their last goal scorer at their so-called old ground now was Wayne Rooney. And that killed the Spurs fans for that. Absolutely killed the Spurs fans for that. So we've got that next level history there as well, that he was the last ever player, scored a vital goal for us to help us get back to the Premier League when we were relegated against Millwall. Bearing in mind the shocking season he had the season beforehand, but then again it was his debut season, so you can't really criticise him for that. And then to come round 4 or 5 years later and score the last goal at the Boleyn, you can't write it. Even if you made a film about the whole of West Ham, you just wouldn't be able to write something that poetic and beautiful moment for that day. It was just everything went well. Everything was right. That was on my birthday as well, for that matter. So it was a great birthday present. That was the only birthday I've ever had where I was as nervous as hell. I was white as a sheet for most of that day, just purely because of what it meant. Just that last ever game was, and then to move into the London Stadium, and then all the crap that's gone on the last 2 or 3 years now. AJ, did you ever actually get to the Boleyn before we moved?
Unfortunately, no. It was on my bucket list of things to do. When I first started watching West Ham, where the announcement had been, Golden Sullivan had said, look, we want to move you guys. Well, we want to move everyone from Upton Park to this new stadium that's been built for the Olympics. And at that time, I hadn't really understood what they were meaning. I thought, just a short-term fix. And then, of course, the 15-16 season rolled round, and, all of a sudden you've got all this farewell Berlin stuff. And I'm thinking, but wasn't this supposed to be just a short-term thing? Turns out, no, it wasn't. And to this day, it absolutely guts me, because, mate, I tell you, my dream was to watch West Ham host Millwall at Upton Park, classic Dockers Derby style game. But unfortunately, some things just aren't meant to be.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, mate, it's not like you can just jump on the train like I can. You've got a schedule to put into place, much less try and figure out exactly all the other timings that you can go for it. So completely understand. So when it comes to the games itself, how do you watch them? Do you interact with the Kiwi Hammers group, and do you guys go into certain pub and watch games? I appreciate, obviously it's quite early in the morning over where you are. Was it not the normal kickoff of like 2 a.m.? I mean, how do you keep up with the Premier League?
So I've got a couple of sites that I use online, such as beIN Sports, that I can use. But when the New Zealand Hammers and when the Kiwi Hammers group get together, we sit there, we drink as much as possible, we create a festive atmosphere, and we sit in a pub, we hold our own, and the last one we had was when we beat Manchester United 3-1 at home, when Anderson and that deflection off, what's his name? Lindelof and Arnautovic all scored. We were in Wellington City that night, and we were creating one hell of an atmosphere. Everything about that night for us was just absolutely fantastic. We've got rugby supporters in there, we've got NBA supporters in there, but the ones that made the most noise that night was us. And I can well
imagine it was a cracking game.
Well, we had 3 or 4 Man United fans come and sit down beside us. They're busy watching the game as well. We're giving it to them, they're giving it to us. I'm starting off a couple of chants here or there, and they're doing their thing, we're doing ours, and just having that camaraderie between our fans and theirs, even in New Zealand, even though we've got the rivalry there with them, or the supposed rivalry with them, we were able to put everything aside, come together, watch a bit of football, wind each other up, something chronic. I swear those boys wanted to take us around the back and give us the what fours, but no, it was a fantastic night, a really, really good night, that one.
Just looking at the live chat at the moment, mate, there's a guy who I've been interacting with quite a while, is actually out in Australia, probably watches your channel as well, Mario Kovac. It's great to be able to finally talk to him. So since I was just starting to become a West Ham fan during the last season at the Bowling, my favourite moment has to be Antonio's goal against Spurs. Yes, I agree with you 100%, Mario. That was a fantastic, one of the best celebrations as well, if I remember correctly, because I think that was the game he did his Homer Simpson, I think.
Yeah, I think it was. Unless Mario's meaning when we were the first team to not only score at the new White Hart Lane, but win a game there as well.
Yes, that will never go down. That will never be wiped from anybody's mind. The Spurs fans absolutely hate that, because when they beat us, it's just West Ham. When we beat them, it's our cup final, and it's just it's just the arrogance of them is unbelievable. The one thing, you see, the annoying thing is that for me, the Spurs fans are very, very an annoying hybrid of Arsenal and Chelsea. They really, really are. They are, because if you think about it, right, they've been the underdogs to Arsenal up until the last few seasons. So they've got that arrogance and that sort of like, we're going to get back at you. Plus they've got that checkbook attitude that Chelsea have as well, and it really, really winds me up. I mean, the majority of to be honest, I've not met many, with the exception of Spurs away, I've not met many Spurs supporters that I don't actually hate. Now, I know it's unusual for a West Ham supporter to say that, but like, for example, one of the bosses at work, he's a Spurs supporter. My ex's dad is Spurs, and you're right, we'd have a bit of talk about the games and whatnot, but that was it. It wasn't that really sort of snide poison that the Spurs supporters seem to be coming out with, and because it's the next generation. All the football supporters are all becoming the same. It's that sort of FIFA mentality of our team's better than yours, and Spurs are. I hate to say it, but Spurs is Spurs' team are better than ours. You know, no West Ham fans that can say no, we're better than you because they've achieved more than we do. All right, so okay, so AD, let me know just really quickly, mate, what you feel has been the best moments of Pellegrini's tenure since he officially came into West Ham this time last year.
Well, you've got a couple of things you can look at, really. Beating United by 2 goals since I think it was the 80s. You cannot. You've got to chalk that one up to him because that was just absolutely fantastic. That day, he got everything absolutely right, and it was just incredible. Most recently, you've got the win over Spurs at their new stadium. I tell you what, I work on the Wellington Rail Network on the trains. I had a Spurs fan on Friday. He jumped on the train at Wellington, was heading out, and I clipped his ticket and I said, "Oh, you're a Spurs boy." He laughed. He said, "Do I want to know what team you support?" I said, "I'm West Ham." You should have seen his face drop, eh? He said, "No, fair play. You guys outplayed us in every single way possible." And I said, I just turned around and I said to him, "Look, mate, I hate to say it, you have a fantastic stadium. What they have achieved there is, it's mind-blowing." And even he said, you know, Pellegrini coming to West Ham, he couldn't have seen it coming, but the fact that he's here now, he's turned us from a little bit of a dodgy team into this real threat towards, well, I would say this real threat towards the top 6. You can't sneeze at that.
No, definitely not.
Like, look, yeah, you've got to look at Slaven Bilic, okay? We loved him to bits. He was super Slav. Then, unfortunately, you know, things just weren't working out for him, and David Moyes came in, and initially I was against that signing of Moyes coming to West Ham, but you know, that's one thing he's known for. He's like Sam Allardyce. He, for the most part, he can keep your team up. But Pellegrini was a signing I did not expect at all. I heard the rumours. I thought, oh yeah, we're going to wind up with someone like, you know, and I mean no disrespect to him, but someone like Eddie Howe or Roy Hodgson, or dare I say, even a throwback to the big Sam Allardyce days. But I was,
do you know what, mate?
never.
Not to interject, but do you know what? I would have. I'd take Eddie Howe. I would have on that progression, going from Allardyce to Bilic to Moyes to Howe would have been a natural progression in terms of managers.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, you look at Pellegrini, you look at the project that he's doing. I don't want to jinx it, but I can see us in Europe next season.
Not going to happen.
I've got a funny feeling. I've got a funny feeling. I'm not saying Champions League. I'm saying Europa League. Probably 7th place next season.
I know what you're like when it comes to your jinxes, mate. When it's not, we'll probably fit. Well, we'll come on to that in a little while. But yeah, I can't see. We'll be close. We'll be close, but you know, we'll obviously catch up about that when the just before the season starts. But I really can't see the signings being good enough, to be honest with you. Bearing in mind, unless Julius, who I personally think he's done a fantastic job identifying a lot. I'm not saying every single signing has been agreed by Pellegrini and Julius combined, but bringing in the likes of Balbuena and at such a small amount that they paid for, and likewise with Fabianski, he's just blown me away. He's made me look a complete tit since when we signed him, because I said I don't think this is a good idea getting a goalkeeper in from a relegated side, but boy has he proven pretty much 90% of the fan base wrong.
Hang on a second. You're implying that you didn't look like a tit before Fabianski signed.
I knew you were going to go with this. Yep. I was waiting for some little thing. It's been 20 minutes so far, mate. You've lasted pretty long.
Hey, you open the door, mate. I just had to walk on in.
But yeah, as I say, because obviously before Pellegrini came in, there would have been a lot of talks going on behind closed doors. I personally think that Moyes was told when he came in that we're actually talking to Pellegrini, and you've only literally got your 6 months. I reckon that's what happened, because obviously it wouldn't have been a case of like a week beforehand they would have picked the phone up to his agent and gone, can we have him? There would have been a long conversation, and there was also rumours about Mario being recommended by Pellegrini. It's a shame we didn't take him up on that full time, but he just wasn't happy by all accounts. I mean, what were your thoughts on Mario when we had him on that second half of the season?
Mario was a weird one, wasn't he? He was that unexpected player that he blew hot and cold, but at the same time, he was also one of these ones that could create that necessary play. He could build up that goal. He could do all sorts of weird and interesting things. And yeah, okay, I would have loved to have had him at the end of, in time for this season, but just seeing how he was, you could see that he wanted to be back at Inter. You could see that he was not going to be coming back. And I think it's a real shame, because when he was here, he played his socks off. Every game, granted, he wasn't scoring as many goals. Granted, he was hot and cold, but he still gave 100% on the pitch every single week.
I mean, what was it? 2 goals in, was it 8 appearances, I think, wasn't it? 8 or 9 appearances?
Yeah.
Not a bad ratio for a midfielder, to be fair.
No. I mean, I still remember his... This is another one that brings a smile to the face. Do you remember last season at Leicester, that Mark Noble volley from about 40 yards out?
Completely dead ball and just thwacked it.
I remember Mario just absolutely losing it.
I thought somebody should have handed him a towel, to be honest.
Yeah.
And likewise, when Mario scored at the end of that season as well at home, he celebrated massively. So you wouldn't have thought at the time that he wasn't happy that players weren't that the fans weren't singing. But I was one of the people that got right behind him pretty much right from the start, because when you saw his debut away at, I think it was Burnley or something, it was one of the away games it was the FA Cup, wasn't it? It was he had a debut in the FA Cup.
That's right. He
we were playing I can't remember, was it League One or League Two club? And I thought he played very well right from the start there. So I kind of thought, well, there's a player here. But at the same point, if we'd have bought in Mario, would we have bought in Anderson as a result? That's the question.
I think, I don't want to speculate too much, but I think it came down to one of you could have your cake, but you couldn't eat it too. You had to have either Mario or Anderson, and I think, given how Anderson was with Lazio last season, given how well he played for our brothers over in Italy, Anderson was always going to win that one, hands down. I mean, I have to admit, I loved Mario when he was here. I was contemplating picking up a shirt with his name and number on the back, just to say, yeah, he played for us. But I have to admit, I'm glad that he didn't. And to be fair, the way I felt about Mario is also the way I felt about Samir Nasri. Now, we don't even know if he's going to be sticking around.
I would be very, very surprised if he is, bearing in mind, A, he's not fit enough, and B, his ridiculous wage demands as well, asking for an extra 50 or 60 grand a week on top of what he was currently earning at the start of from January onwards. Big ego with that boy. Unfortunately, don't get me wrong, very, very talented footballer, but we need, and I know because you've said about this on quite a few occasions in your videos yourself, we need to get rid of the players that are too injury prone. And unfortunately, Nasri, as talented and as technically brilliant as the guy is one of those sort of players that we need to say thanks, but no deal, unfortunately.
And it's funny you mention that, because the first player that comes to mind is Andy Carroll. So bye.
Which obviously is going to happen, but apparently because nobody else is going to be taking him, he's still going to be training with the club to get himself as fit as possible. I mean, at the end of the day, we're not paying him anything anymore. Once I think it's within the next week or so, I think all the wages stop for the season. Now that everybody's on holiday, but it makes sense. He's literally in Epping, which is 2 or 3 miles away down the road from me. Now, because he bought old Rod Stewart's old place, so he's going to be using the training facilities. Will we charge him for it? The amount of money we spent on his medical bills, but but in all seriousness, there's absolutely no harm in him still training with us. I mean, it's like with Ginge. He trained with us for quite a while until he went to Ipswich. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when the players are officially announced, even though they would have been reported to the Premier League at the beginning of the month. I think it was like the second week of May that they had to say who they were keeping on and who they were releasing. Now, obviously, AJ, I know a few weeks back you did a video about who's coming up and who's going down from the Premier League and Championship, respectively. Obviously, it's the playoff final.
Boy, did I get that wrong. Jesus Christ!
I wasn't going to mention that, mate. You made the rod for your back there. Out of the two, which team do you want to join Sheffield United and Norwich coming up?
It's quite funny, because part of me wants to see Villa back in the league. Just for the sake of the fact that there's 3 clubs that have claret and blue playing in the exact same league, us, Burnley and Aston Villa. But I love the project Frank Lampard has at Derby. When Frank left Chelsea, there was a part of me that thought, thank God he's gone from the league. And then, you look at the project now and you think, holy crap, where did this Frank Lampard come from? He's taken a team that was borderline rubbish last season. He's helped them become a force to be reckoned with. And of the two, I think Derby's going to do it. I think it will become a black and white affair at Wembley.
You're probably right on that one, mate. But at the same point, with Derby, they have got quite a few very talented players in there, and also not because of bringing Ashley Cole in to help out that campaign as well, but you're absolutely right. The season before last, they weren't playing for the manager. You could really tell that from a lot of the games, and it made them look. It made them look like they were rubbish, but they were actually playing. They had decent players in there that just weren't motivated. When Lampard came in, as you correctly point out, mate, he absolutely swiped them all across the face by the looks of it. Really, really sorted them out. Of course, there's links to him being linked to Chelsea when Sarri goes. But yeah, for his first ever campaign as a championship manager, getting them to the playoffs at the first knockings. Bearing in mind he never properly managed a team before, very, very impressive, and just shows how smart the bloke is. Regardless of his his IQ number that was put around quite a few years back, and the fact that he's fluent in Latin, blah 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 blah. But it just shows how talented the boy is, and why, in my opinion, we need to lay off him as West Ham supporters. At the end of the day, his family's West Ham. He loves West Ham. You could see it from when Ryan spoke to his dad on West Ham Fan TV a few months back, saying that he was always wearing his West Ham kit when he was a kid. He still loves the club, but he turns on us because the fans turned on us. Turned on him. So it's personally, if Derby do get promoted, I would be one of the ones that won't be shouting abuse to him at being in the dugout. If we're winning or not, or we're winning or we're losing, I would not be giving him any grief in any shape or form, because he is a very, very good bloke. I know, his family history is slightly different and all that, but for me, it's just we need to lay off him. We really, really need to lay off him. Hacked in the live stream has said that he shared the stream on Facebook. Thank you very much, mate. Nice to get a few people more on board. Okay, so let's talk about a few other things now, mate, because we've covered quite a lot in that half an hour already, which is pretty cool. Obviously, Zabaleta, we signed him 2 years ago today. Thoughts on his last 2 seasons?
Oh, well, I want to say this. If it wasn't for the fact that he's getting on, look, Zabaleta is probably one of the best players we've managed to pinch from City in a very, very long time. I think you look at the standard that he's brought to the club. Yes, towards the end of the season, you could tell he was starting to get a little bit tired. The game, I think it was against, I want to say, Southampton.
Yeah.
He just looked absolutely shocking. But at the same regards, he has been that key player. He's made the challenge. He's been the mentor to Dick. He's generally been a positive influence in that team. And even with the Arnautovic saga back in January, he was one of those players that kept relatively quiet, but you knew that even he was a little bit miffed by this whole situation around whether or not he's staying or going off to China. And I think at the end of the day, what we've got in Zabaleta is not only a player or a leader, but an all-round legend of the game who's giving everything he's got week in, week out. We know that loyalty in football is hard to come by. That man is as loyal as they come.
100%. He loves playing football. He from that one point of view, he doesn't care where he's playing, because we saw it last season, i.e. the season just gone, and we saw it the season beforehand as well, when we were scoring vital goals. He used to celebrate like crazy. He loves the club. It's the same, bearing in mind the fan base is pretty much same with the original City lot. The very, very same sort of working class attitude and stuff. And now, obviously the new generation of supporters are just sport little nerks, but he loves it. I was going to come on to this a little bit later on, but it's probably the right time to talk about it now, because you may or may not have seen over the last few days, we've been linked with Nathaniel Klein. Now, as good as a player he is, I would very much struggle to see where Klein would be. I know we've got to bring him in a player in of his quality for not just for competition, but also to make the homegrown quota as well. But when you think about it, because obviously Zabaleta's here for another 12 months, Ryan Fredericks as well, and even Ben Johnson, would you really start Klein over any or all of those three?
No. In fact, I would. Being as brutally honest as I can, I don't think Klein is the player we need at the club. I think you've got cover for Zabaleta and Fredericks and Ben Johnson. I think it's time that we start focusing on developing Johnson into, one of these academy players like Dick, like Grady Diangana, like, dare I say, Reece Oxford, into those sharp, energetic, really well-defined players. I mean, I wouldn't use sharp and defined in the same sentence as Reece Oxford. But in saying that, though, you've got to look at the fact that Johnson is a young player. When he made his debut against Manchester City, Man City of all clubs, he worked his ass off 110%, and he turned into an absolute machine. He stuck with Aguero, he stuck with Gabriel Jesus,
Made
Raheem
Marvin look like he was playing a League One side.
Pretty much, absolutely. He was. It was almost like Johnson had been in the Premier League for 10 years, had been around the block a couple of times. Mate, he is one to watch for the future, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he starts making more and more of a nuisance of himself with regards to who does Pellegrini pick for that right back position or even left back, because we know that Johnson can play as a left back or as a right back.
My only concern on it, and I agree with you 100%, when I did my City reaction video, I absolutely said this guy is superb. But I don't want everybody to jump on the bandwagon in the same way that we did with Reece Oxford, because that backfired massively. You've got to give players at least 7 or 8 games consistently. Now, bearing in mind he's only played 1 game this season, and a beautiful debut from him, absolutely brilliant. As you say, he can play with both feet, so he can do left back and right back. And also, going into the same moment as well, there's rumours that Cresswell is being hunted by Everton. I really can't see it, even though apparently there is talk that we are open to selling him. I really can't see how we're going to be able to do that, because if we get rid of Cresswell, yes, okay, Ben Johnson could be a very, very good replacement, but that will only leave us with Johnson, because Masuaku is a winger. I don't care what anybody says. As well as he's been playing in the back position games, and especially against Spurs, it was beautiful against Spurs. He is not a defender. He said it himself. And if the rumours are true and we do sell Cresswell at some point, I think that's a big, big mistake without bringing in at least another player from the academy or getting a replacement in very, very quick.
You've also got to mention that, or you've also got to look at the fact that isn't Cresswell a Reds supporter as well?
Yeah, there is that.
So why would he do a Jamie Carragher and go to Everton when he's a Liverpool fan? It's no. But you're absolutely right when you said that Masuaku is not a left back. I've been saying it ever since I saw him play. Seeing where Bilic was trying to go with Arthur was just, it wasn't right at all. And I think the fact that, you've got good players who are being played out of position like Masuaku, it sucks to see it. But if touch wood, it doesn't happen, but if Cresswell left the club, I wouldn't be mad for it. Well, I wouldn't be mad at him. I would be a little bit upset, and there could be quite a few tears on that one. But, I think at the end of the day, it's if the boy's heart is in the right place, I think he'll stick with us, because we've got an exciting project underway. You can see that he wants to be a big part of it. Yeah, okay, he's not had the greatest of seasons. He's not been banging in the goals like he was back at Upton Park. But look, Cresswell leaving, I don't think it's going to happen. Masuaku definitely is a left winger. I think developing Ben Johnson and further developing him into a Premier League player that can play at either left or right back, he could be the cover that we need.
Definitely. I agree with you, mate, 100% on that. Yes, there is a good argument to say that he's coming on age a little bit now. He's what 27, 28 now, I think, something like that. So about that. Age is catching up with him a little bit. But yes, I've loved Creswell even when even through the dark times of where he wasn't making any changes for 2/3 of the first season at the London Stadium. Even though I was criticising him a lot, I was still maintaining that he was a good player. And I pick him at when I do the team sheet with predictions, I pick him at left back every single time over Masuaku, and everybody knows how much I love Masuaku. He's got that grit and determination that we love to see as West Ham supporters. But he's just out of position. Same way with Antonio. Antonio did very well at right back. He just can't do it properly. That's the difference on there. Talking of relatively crooked players, have you seen that video of Wilshere doing his own little beep test to keep himself fit that came up a few days back?
No, I don't think I did. Was it entertaining? Tell me, did you laugh?
I'm torn on it, to be honest with you, because it's entertaining to watch because he's literally running like that and stuff, but in the middle of a park somewhere, and there's all houses around it and whatnot. But at the same point, I love the fact of seeing it because he's keeping to his word that he wants to get himself as fit as possible. So he's showing that he wants to do that. He wants to keep himself active, and I really, really hope we get to see a better season out of him next season. I really, really do, because it's a worry in one regards, because again, we've got a midfielder that we can't rely on in the same way that we weren't able to rely on with Nasri. I know that Wilshere was out for a lot longer than Nasri, and Nasri's circumstances were slightly different. But again, it's just, for me, I just want to see, like everybody else, I want to see a fit Wilshere and give a proper opinion on him, because he hasn't played enough games for us to say, he's good enough or he's not good enough, in my opinion.
Well, look at how he was at Bournemouth during, I think it was the 15-16 campaign. Look, he was an absolute machine, and he was absolutely annihilated by, I think it was Harry Kane, and he picked up a nasty ankle injury. But Wilshere is one of those players that I have to admit I'm very torn on. I can see why we signed him. He wasn't getting the game time under Arsene Wenger, and Arsenal just wasn't the place for him anymore. So, fair play to the board for bringing him over to West Ham. I have to put it out there, I hated that announcement video. It was the most cringiest thing in human history. But look, the flashes of brilliance that we've seen from Jack, I think, I want to say we'll see another fantastic season from him, but I just can't see it happening.
Yeah, I know what you mean, mate. It's because it could go one of two ways. Unfortunately, it was a big PR stunt to bring him in, say that he's coming home, blah blah blah. But yes, it was 5 years ago. I would have taken him 100%. You're right. When it comes to Arsenal, you're absolutely 100% right there, because they were trying to reduce the age, which we're also trying to do as well. So that would be interesting in itself to see where that goes in the next couple of seasons. Now, one thing else I want to get your opinion on, mate, because I don't know how much attention you've been able to pay, given your work schedule and everything the last few days, that the new Betway deal that's been announced. Karen Brady confirmed it was a record-breaking deal, because it's up until 2022. The funny thing is that Claret and Hugh confirmed that the record-breaking deal is only worth between 7 and 8 million a season.
Well, being honest here, I don't trust, and I think there could be quite a few other YouTubers like me who think along these lines. I don't entirely trust Claret and Blue. I think what they've Claret and Hugh, because they've put out some clickbaity, borderline fake crap over the years, and it's just been an absolute shame, because I used to respect them. I used to go to them quite a bit, and no offense to Hugh, I know he's trying to do the best he can with what he's got, but yeah, I take what he says with a grain of salt at the moment. But look, getting back to the original question at hand, Betway have done us proud. They've been an absolutely fantastic sponsor. Some of the community events that I've managed to catch over here in NZ, just a general really, really good, really West Ham partnership too, I might add, because we're a working class club. We understand what it's like being a working class club. They are a working class company in my eyes, and I think with this partnership extended out to 2022, it's going to be interesting because I believe Umbro are also out to 2022 as well. So, we could be losing both our shirt and our kit supplier at the exact same time. So, but no, I think fantastic news. I definitely enjoy wearing a betting company on my shirts, and I think quite a few others are. I see that smile too. You can't deny it.
My only issue with it now, if this goes across all the shirts ever, is I hate it. I hate seeing sponsorship on shirts. I really, really detest it. Shirts look so much better without them. I wish we could get back to the old days where there would be a background sponsor. We can get back to just having non-branded stuff on there. That's my only issue with it. We've had some really nice kits that have been just made to look awful by sponsorship, especially for example when XL Holidays went into administration and we had that stupid blue thing and so it was,
yes,
I remember that. It was one of the two, where we had that blue box around it and stuff, and it was embarrassing. It really, really was embarrassing from that side of things. But yeah, I agree. Yes, they are a very, very good betting company with the same with exactly the same backgrounds. Now, we'll only really know what the deal's going to be when the financial statement comes out for next season, which will be the following December. So, next December we'll find out how much it is really worth. But at the same point, I know what you mean with Clarity Hugh. He's pissed a lot of people off over the last few months. For example, with when he released Declan Rice's wages, when that new contract was done, it was spread all over. Then I did a video about it as myself.
Yeah.
And so he pissed a lot of people off on that. But at the same point, he was giving the truth. And this is the hypocrisy when it comes to West Ham support. Well, not just football supporters. We seem to pipe on left, right, and centre about Carroll being on 90 grand a week, Nasri on 70, 80 grand a week, Wilshere on 9, blah blah blah. Do you know what I mean? And yet when Declan Rice's wages are being published, everybody gets, well, why are you telling us this? That I don't agree with, because at the end of the day, I get it because he's pissed a lot of people off with a lot of things. Not just that, even Hammers Chat. They are very good friends with Hugh. That's Hugh Soughton that runs it. But even they say, yeah, this is a bit dubious. Because at the end of the day, he does piss people off quite a fair bit. But at the same point, he only tells what's actually going on. Whether we want to know about it or not is not down to him. It's more down to the fact that it's up to us. As I said to Wayne in the podcast I did with him on Thursday, where people are coming off Twitter because they're hating to see people arguing over nothing, which is the way that social media is going nowadays. Don't follow those people if you don't want to see them arguing about stuff. Clarity Hugh is a forum for many people to put their opinion on. Twitter and YouTube, etc., or a forum for anybody to put their opinions over. If you don't like it, don't watch it or don't read it. It's as simple as that.
No, you're absolutely right. And you mentioned Hammers Chat, and look, I've worked with Gonzo quite a few times, and he's an absolutely fantastic bloke. Gio's just hilarious.
Yeah, the reason why both you and I got into doing these channels.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, those two are fantastic. I think Hugh, although he means well, he's gone about things the wrong way. Now, I'm not going to I'm not going to boycott him. I will have a read of what he's got to say, because the way I see it, he's another West Ham fan voicing his opinions. I really, really dislike the way he handled the Declan Rice announcement. I think that really should have, that could be considered the final nail in his coffin. But
He's human at the
you've
end of
got
the day,
to,
like the rest of us. He's going to make mistakes
yeah,
like the rest of us.
yeah, exactly. And I think, no, I'm a firm believer that if we need to know things, the club will tell us what we need to know. Um, Now, I, for one, was absolutely blown away when Declan signed his new deal, because it was a big middle finger to all the top six clubs watching over him, really, starting to make inquiries about this young up and coming defensive midfielder who could play at centre back if needed. That was fantastic. What I didn't appreciate was the whole slamming of one another, because, oh no, he's saying that it's this amount per week and he's saying that it's that amount per week. And I mean, do we really need to know how much a player is earning every week? I'm sorry, I don't care much about what they're earning. I'm one of these ones that prefers to see what they're going to do on the pitch every single week, week in, week out.
But the problem, I know what you mean, mate. I know, I get it 100% on that. But at the same point, when we earn we earn in a year what they earn in 4 or 5 days, the majority of us,
Mm,
it's we have that. I can't say instant dislike, but we kind of want to see that. Looking at the bigger picture here, the reason why people run up their wages all the time is A, because they're ridiculously overpaid in every shape or form you can possibly think of. But at the same point, because of that, a lot of people's mentality, and I've been there myself, where I've gone, well, you're earning what I earn in a year in the space of 4 or 5 days, and you're putting in an eighth of the effort that I put in when I'm at work. Why on And that's where it all comes from, is that trying to get that level of sibilance between, so parity, I should say, between how hard we work and when we don't see that on the pitch. And that's when people's wages come in, because that's what people are. We will say, right, well, he's massively overpaid and he's proving he's overpaid. We kind of ignore the pure football side of it and just look what everybody's earning now, which is a horrible sign of people nowadays. But you're absolutely right. It matters more what they're doing and not the wages that they're on. But at the same point, it does matter, because they get ridiculously overpaid and should be working a lot harder than they actually are.
yeah, no, absolutely. And it's just one of those things that I have a bit of a gripe with, because, yeah, okay, I don't earn that much in a year. They're, in some cases, they're earning 10, 11, 12 times what I make in a year. Now, that's some scary, scary facts. I mean, at the end of the day, though, we are the fans. We're not the agents. We're not part of the club at management level. Where we go, we sit down, we watch the football as it's happening. I'd much prefer knowing that Arnautovic has scored a brace against Southampton, or Rice has picked up another goal against, I don't know, Tottenham, for crying out loud. It, it's just those small wins along the way in a season that I really, really care about the most.
Agreed, mate, 100%. Now, what I wanted to go back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier is talking about goalkeepers, because obviously there's talk of Nathan Trott going out on loan next season, and a very, very interesting thing that's come in over the last couple of days is we've signed a 16-year-old Xherdan Shaqiri, I think you pronounce that. He's signed in the academy, 16 years old. Is supposed to be really, really well tipped as a fantastic prospect for the future. Now, the thing is, for me, is why this has happened. I get it that Nathan Trott and the other guy, was it Anagi, I think, or Naga or something like that. I get the fact that they need to go out and play proper competitive football in order to try and establish themselves as a number two. But when we're bringing in somebody of Christian's potential, and that we're also linked with Alvin Martin's boy at Millwall, David Martin, which is 30, who's 33, I think, 32, 33, it kind of sends a mixed message to the academy. I mean, maybe it's just me, but I just really kind of think, well, we're bringing in people from the Championship, yet we're loaning our prospects out to the Championship.
Yeah. I mean, what we've got here is one of those... See, it's interesting because I really do not like Millwall. I don't like us doing business with them. I would prefer if we just walked away and pretend that they didn't exist. But if the rumour is true that we're going after their keeper, then why the hell did we go and sign the 16-year-old? Because he's a fantastic player from what I have heard. I've seen a couple of videos of him. He's not actually too bad of a player. I'm excited to see him develop. Yes, we could be losing Nathan Trott, and that's an absolute shame because Trott is one of those players that's just, you know, you look at him in the Premier League too, and he's up there with Fabianski sometimes, you know, making that crucial save. He's throwing himself in there just to really piss off the opposition and really dampen their parade. And the kid's as West Ham as we are, you know. He's just as West Ham as Mark Noble. You see that when, you know, he's on the pitch. But for this 16-year-old, I have to admit I'm really excited to see what he's got coming up. I think he's going to be an exciting prospect. You know, you and me before were talking about the likes of Ben Johnson and Dan Garner and Rice, and I think the 16-year-old's going to be one of those players if he's treated and if he's allowed to develop the way he's supposed to, you know, develop. I think he's going to be a rising star in not just the Premier League too, but in the Premier League itself in a couple of years' time if we can develop him the way we've developed Trott.
Agreed, 100%. For me, the backup goalkeeper is pretty much Etheridge at Cardiff. I would prefer to have him as a backup than David Martin or even Lossie at Huddersfield that we've also been linked to the last few weeks as well, just purely because I think he's more professional. He will really give Fabianski, that next level competition rather than bringing in somebody kind of like how Xherdan was with God, his name's just jumped out of my head now.
Darren
Randolph, yeah. They were pretty much on level with each other and gave each other very, very good competition. Xherdan and Fabianski, not so much. So, but with with Fabianski and Etheridge, that would boost both of them to make even better saves than they're currently capable of doing. I would absolutely love to see that. Will it happen? We'll find out in the next 2.5 months. There's also...
You know, it's funny you mentioned Etheridge. So, sorry to interrupt. It's funny you mentioned Etheridge because the amount of crap he received on social media, you know, when Cardiff went down, a lot of people were saying, oh, you know, Etheridge is just not Premier League quality. Well, no, I really disagree with that because 100%. I think he is. I think he is Premier League. I think he's one of these players that's shone in the Championship. He's shone in the Premier League this season. And I think when it comes to Etheridge, mate, I would love to have him at the club. Yes, Xherdan has done some absolute bits for us. I will never forget him in that FA Cup game when he went and put that penalty past. You know it, when he put it past.
Before that, and even the commentator said at the time, I mean, I was there at the night, so I didn't hear it until the next morning, but the commentator said when he took his gloves off, I said, that's it. The gloves are off. Is this going to be the winning penalty? Yes, it is.
Yep. Boom. Done. Yep. Oh, mate. I sit there and I watch that on YouTube and it gives me the tingles and oh, yeah, buddy.
Now, also, one thing that I'm really, really quite excited about is was actually a couple of midfielders that we're apparently looking at. Camarasa, it was ties in nicely with Cardiff as well because he was on loan from Real Betis, if I remember correctly. Apparently, we're interested in bringing him in. I think will be brilliant. But if the rumours are true that we've put in an £18 million bid for Andre Gomes at Everton, that is showing a lot of intent about sorting out the midfield, as far as I'm concerned. Two very, very good midfielders that would just, with playing with Noble and Rice, and Anderson and Snodgrass and Yarmolenko and Antonio. It's, to me, that's almost like a dream midfield. What do you reckon?
That's not bad, but I can beat that because the one player I actually regret us not going for is Xherdan Shaqiri from Watford.
Yes, 100%. He's the problem is too Anderson stroke Payet like. He will go missing for a lot of the season, as he did with Watford this season, and yet and when he comes on as a sub, he just absolutely turns things around. It's frustrating from a neutral's point of view. Christ knows what Christ knows what the Watford fans feel about him. But at the same point, he is one of the reasons. Well, he is literally the reason why they got to the FA Cup final at the same point with those two beautiful goals he scored in the semi-final. But yeah, agreed, 100%. When he was at Everton originally, before we went back to Barcelona, he was a handful, and he can be a handful, but he's not consistently a handful, and that's what we need right now. We need more consistent players. I'm sure there's a difference with Anderson because this is his first season in the Premier League. He struggled, and he admitted it himself. He wasn't used to the tempo, the physicality of it. He's been getting better and better. For example, that period in December, he played some phenomenal football. That goal, as you say, that cheeky goal against Man United at home. Stuff like that. I'm hoping and praying that we only get to see more and more from him. But as I say, to try and reinforce the midfield is a fantastic idea. And apparently, we're also linked to monitoring Fabian Delph at City. What's going on with his contract? I'm in two minds about this. I really am.
Yeah, I saw that, and part of me is thinking, well, hang on a second, why are we going in for another arguably older player from Man City? I mean, I thought we were starting to lower the average age, not increase it. You know what I'm trying to get at? It's
because Noble said
as
that
much as I'd love him
in his interview the other week.
As much as I'd love to have him at the club, I just don't see it working. I think he'd just be a bench warmer that you bring on in the last 10, 15, 20 odd minutes of a game, and then you just leave it be.
There's a lot of money for that. It's a lot of money for that.
It's very, dare I say, and I can't believe I'm bringing this guy up. I swore I wouldn't do it. It's very Alvaro Arbeloa or even Simone Zaza of us.
Yes, you're right, 100%, 100%. But maybe third time lucky, eh?
Well, no, considering he was Zaza was pony for us, and then he goes to Sevilla and he's just smashing it, and now I think he's at Torino on loan from Sevilla. Real journeyman, that guy.
Big time, and that's the problem. We're trying to get, like you say, we're trying to get away from those sort of people. Talking of journeyman, what do you think about these links for Shaqiri?
Please, oh my God, please, can we get him? When he was at Stoke, right, the first few games that I watched, because I looked at Stoke for a little bit, and I was watching a couple of their games, and Shaqiri for Stoke was one of those players that was just breathtaking to watch. He was just as good as Arnautovic. When they both paired up, you knew something interesting was about to happen.
He was pretty impressive in the Euros as well, for that matter. Did you catch any of the Croatia games?
No, I didn't. But I have to admit, what interests me about this story of Shaqiri coming to West Ham, why are Liverpool letting him go? What's gone down in the dressing room? Has Klopp been unable to keep Shaqiri in line? I'd love him to come to West Ham, but I need all the facts first. I don't want to repeat of
Arnautovic. I agree with you 100%. There is, if the links are true. Now, because obviously it's not. There's not any formal bids. There's no conversations. It's apparently one of the players that are on the list. So I don't think there's any strength to it in any shape or form. I kind of think it's more about the fact that how well, like you said, how well they linked up together when they were at Stoke. I think that's it. Because Shaqiri's not really played a lot. He's played quite a fair amount of games for Liverpool season just gone, but not enough in terms of his quality. And that's probably where it's come from, rather than just being a link just for the sake of it. I agree 100%, mate. Yes, we should. It would be a very, very good player to bring in. I want to mention. I think there's a bit of a shakiness behind it, as you're saying.
Well, I want to mention what Tim Smith has just put up in the chat. Should have got him last season. 100%, Tim. Absolutely. I think if we were going to get Arnautovic, we should have gone in for Shaqiri as well. I mean, look, both of those players can be described as being bang average, but I'm sorry, Shaqiri at Liverpool this season, he was an instrumental player in them getting to this Champions League final. He helped maintain that absolute phenomenal race between Liverpool and Man City at this season. And I think if we're going to go for one, you got to go for the other, and why we didn't is beyond me. But if we're going to pick him up this season, please let it happen. I beg. But knowing us, we'll go and find some bloke from the arse end of Croatia, the arse end of Qatar, and we'll bring him in, and the club will create some big pomp and whatnot. Yeah,
it's got to call you out on that one, there, mate, because we did that with Lanzini, and look what happened.
Yeah, Lanzini was different though, because look at River Plate. They're a club that's always taken it to, I think it was Boca Juniors, and Lanzini was always going to be one of those players for us to do the work and just be a right grot about it as well. I can't come up with a better word enough. Lanzini, he's our jewel. People describe us as the scummiest club in London, second and well, of course, ahead of Spurs and Millwall. But you know, if we're one of the scummiest clubs in London, then Lanzini's our grot, and we love him to bits.
100%, mate. My only issue with him is not actually with him himself. It's more down to the fact that maybe the club rushed him back a little bit too soon this season from his injury. He was not meant to be a feature at all this season, from when he got his injury originally out in the Euros, and then all of a sudden, January, February time, he's coming back. Now I know from a sportsman's point of view that he wanted to play as quickly as possible. Fine, I get that. Lanzini's got that hunger. Actually, one of my housemates, he goes to the gym where Lanzini was training, and he said it was phenomenal watching him train. But at the same point, I just honestly think that we rushed him back too soon, and that's why a lot of people have been jumping on his back, because a lot of people have been criticising that he hasn't been playing well enough this season. Not many, if I'm to be fair, because he has played pretty well, but nowhere near the level that we always see from him.
Well, if that's the case, then who would you pick to to head in Antonio's head off the crossbar at Watford.
That's timing. That's the whole point. But that's the thing. It's just that it's just 20 odd years of West Ham rushing back players before they're fit enough, and that was that little halo that was hanging over me on that story, was just the fact that he was great. I love him. Don't get me wrong. He's scored some vital goals. He loves the London derby. Always seems to score in a London derby. As you say, well, Watford technically isn't because it's Hertfordshire, but it's he scores against Spurs. He scores against Palace. I think he's even scored against Chelsea once, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, back in the 15-16.
He's a jewel when it comes to big games. He just loves to get there in the little places.
Yeah, absolutely. And he really is a West Ham signing, because looking at him, when we got him on loan for the 15-16 season, a lot of people, I think, were a little dubious about who this Lanzini was. You know, there had been some hype in South America about him, and he was described as potentially a partner for Messi, and I've got no problem with that. But we got him on loan. We said, actually, no, we're going to buy him. We want him. He worked well with Dimitri Payet. Then, that proverbial storm happened. But he's really come into his own since then. And I think Lanzini's another one of these players that's, okay, he might have been rushed back into service a little bit too early, but you can't deny that even when he's not 100%, he is still absolutely magical. You can't deny it. That goal against Watford was the creme de la creme of Lanzini. If you were to put him in a dictionary and give him a definition, it's that goal. It's this season. It's the fact that he ruptured his ACL. He, went and not rebuilt himself, got himself better, and then he came back, and in the most Lanzini way possible, the most Lanzini way, he goes and bangs a goal in at the very end of the season.
Yeah, and it's this. For example, what was it? The first ever Europa qualifier at the Bowling under Bilic. Lanzini absolutely impressed that day. He was a terrier, kind of like how Wilshere was against Southampton when he came on. It was nipping about all over the place, but this was for 90 minutes. Lanzini was fantastic, and he's one of my all-time favourite West Ham players. Just a couple of more things before we wrap this up, mate, because we've gone a little bit over time.
Just a bit.
There's a lot of rumours gathering pace at the moment about Wesley Moraes, the Portuguese striker. There's a lot of things. Loads of more people seem to be jumping on this story. I'm not going to say I know anything about him, but from what I'm reading, he does sound like a very, very good striker, albeit not the most of consistent. But he seems to be way more consistent than the strikers that we've currently got. Do you know anything about this Wesley character?
No, I can't say I have. I think the first I heard about it, about last week, actually.
That sounds about right.
Sitting in the lunchroom at work, drinking a cup of coffee.
Yeah, and also there's been an interesting update on Maxi Gomez as well. Again, a player that I don't know, but apparently he's really been tipped, especially for his European way of playing football, is that ex-West Ham employee has confirmed that he's weighing up his options because apparently Barcelona have bid for him, but the club rejected it. So that's interesting.
Okay.
That's very
interesting. Well, the last I heard about the Maxi Gomez situation was that Arsenal had come in and they had made an inquiry into him.
Spurs, apparently.
And it sounded like he was genuinely interested. I didn't know Barca was sniffing around, but let's be real for a minute here. They're always sniffing around. But
always the top talent.
no,
That just shows how good the guy is.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Look, if we're really in for a shout of landing Maxi, why the club are fart-assing around is beyond me, because I've I've seen a couple of compilations that fans have made and they've uploaded to YouTube, and man, I kid you not, he is a player I would love to see pulling on the Claret and Blue next season. Perfect Andy Carroll replacement.
Compilation on YouTube was exactly the same.
Eh?
So Zaza's compilation on YouTube before we signed him was exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't trust what you see on YouTube, because, like you say, it's the greatest of the greatest parts of it. And even with like, for example, the other player that we're really linked into, Marega from Porto, his best of the season on YouTube is 1.5 minutes long, and most of that is him trying to score, but goals being saved. So
well,
not really sure.
I don't see why we're sniffing around Marega for, considering I've heard nothing but terrible things. So, I mean, Tim's just commented on Maxi. The only problem with him is that he's slow. Yeah, he can be, but at the same time, I get the feeling he's one of those players that's going to pop up when you least expect him.
That's very true, but that's kind of the West Ham way, though, isn't it? I mean, nobody was expecting Noble to be able to do some of the stuff that he does, because he switches it on every now and again. And the funny thing is there is an article that's floating about that apparently Marega is on his way. Whether that's true or not is another matter. And as I say, we've got 2 months to find out what the hell's going on. It's going to be a long time. And just finally, one striker that I really think will do absolutely brilliantly for us. Just want to get your thoughts on it, mate, because I haven't been able to see your latest video yet. Is Rondon at Newcastle? What do you reckon?
Yep, I'd take him. I'd take him in a heartbeat. Look at what he was accomplishing with West Brom when he first went there. Look at the Rondon, for me, is one of those weird players, and I seem to like the weird ones just for some strange, unknown, mythical reason. But look, he's one of those players that you can count on in a way, because he's just so good at being a pain in the ass to the opposition.
That's very true, and that's exactly the sort of thing the striker that we need. He's an out-and-out striker rather than the attacking centre forward that we've got in Arnautovic. We need somebody that's going to bully him a lot nowadays, because the game is a lot more physical than the Tony Cottee and McAvenny days. A lot more physical, and we need to try and find a striker that will give us that sort of balance. But AJ, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and we should have done this a long time ago. I appreciate you staying up, because it's quite late over there, but I know you're waiting for the Grand Prix, so it's great that we've been able to do this, guys. Everybody in the chat, Tim, Mario, where also Joan as well. Didn't get time to talk to her, because she always comments on the videos as well. Guys, thank you very much for contributing in the live chat. It's always great to get people talking. If you're new round to the channel, then by all means, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and please subscribe. Also, go over to AJ's channel, the Kiwi Hammers TV. Some very good documentary stuff that he comes out with as well, and especially his preview videos for the upcoming games. They are very entertaining. But
stop it.
But in the meantime, guys, thank you very much for your time. If you want to contact me on any of the social media platforms, I'm on Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, fanvibe.com. AJ, that's a recommended website for you to upload your stuff on there as well, because there's a lot of football talk. I don't know if you know about this website or not, but there's a lot of football talk that goes on there, so that might help increase your growth on the channel as well. I always recommend it to people that have a channel. It's one of the best forums to get. It's not really a forum. You can post up links. You can put your own videos up there itself. Very good website. If you can contact me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and where are we? Well, basically everywhere. all with the same username at JPWHUTV. Also, go and follow AJ's Instagram account. Was it the Nerd in the Tinfoil or something like that, isn't it?
Oh yeah, the retard and tinfoil.
That's it, the retard. Why retard in the tinfoil?
Mate, it's just who I am. You should know.
A few underscores in there, isn't there? Is it the underscore retard or something, whatever it is? But yeah, go and check those out. Some great photos he puts up on that account, so go check that out as well. AJ, is there anything you want to mention before we wrap this up?
Yeah, look, I just want to say a big thank you to you, mate. As you say, this has been a long time coming. The amount of time, you've been haranguing me something chronic over the last couple of months, and yeah, my work schedule's been pretty tight. But no, look, thank you so much for this chance. We have to do it again sometime.
Definitely, mate. At the end of the day, this was your idea, and I had to push.
Yeah, well, you're bloody welcome that I was free.
Yeah, no, I know, I get it, because your work schedule and your health as well, for that matter. So we've all got lives. We're not paid by any company to do this. We all self-fund it. I mean, you record your videos through your phone. I used to do that up until recently as well. I bought myself a new laptop. Even though I've got a sponsorship link, I've not received a penny out of that yet. It'd be interesting to find out if anybody has made any purchases through that link. But as I say, we all have to fit this in with our lifestyle. This is what people seem to forget. It's the same with everybody. It's the same with West Ham Fan TV. Same with Hammers Chat. It's the same with, I don't know, even Arsenal Fan TV. We've all got our lives to lead, and we fit this around it, which is why sometimes with you and I, that we're only basically solo contributors. We can only do, sometimes for like you say, your work schedule and your family life and whatnot, you don't post up videos for months, weeks at a time. So, it's completely understandable. And that's one thing that people seem to forget, is the fact that we're not the BBC, we're not ABC.
Yeah.
We're not CNN. We have to do all this. We do all the research ourselves. We get all the equipment ourselves. We practice ourselves and make the notes ourselves. It's just it's people seem to forget that, which is why a lot of, like, for example, one of the reasons why Gonzo from Hammers Chat took a break out of Twitter for a little while, because he was getting harassed. Ryan Archers from West Ham Fan TV was getting pissed off with social media. This is social media. People have got to realise that, granted, it's mostly teenagers and those of IQs less than a glass of water will give those guys abuse, because they think that it's acceptable to do that. It's absolutely not, under any circumstances. I know you and I have had a bit of banter between each other and stuff, but none of the conversations that we've had have gone anywhere near to the grief that those guys get.
Oh,
and also likewise with and also likewise that it's a lot of teenagers are on there as well, giving it the mouth, and would never say the same thing at the same point if you sort of met them face to face. There's got to be a lot more respect around everybody that does these social medias. At the end of the day, guys, if you're watching this and you think you're better than me, then start your own YouTube channel, put your own content out, and see how hard it is.
I will back that up as well, because I work a part-time job. I don't bring in nearly enough to support the channel. I've just become a delegate through my union, so my workload's just got that little bit busier. But the way I see it, if you've got respect for me, I will have respect for you. The second you start being a prat about things, we've got a problem.
You can swear on this channel, mate. Don't worry. You don't have to. You don't have to hold back.
Oh no, because it's a respect thing, you see.
Yeah, all right. But yeah, guys, thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your bank holiday weekend, and I will see you guys very, very soon for the latest video. Christ knows what we're going to talk about. But because I love to, as everybody knows that watches this channel, I love to Hacks just put on saying you're better than me. Right, I'm guessing it's either me or to you or to both of us. But thank you, Hacks. Very nice to see you.
Thanks,
throughout the conversation. In the meantime, guys, I will see you very, very soon.